Welcome to Inside ICSD with Dr. Brown, a show with Superintendent Dr. Luvelle Brown that takes a look inside the Ithaca City School District. I'm Brian Okumu, a senior at Ithaca High School, and our show is produced by my fellow English and digital media classmates at Ithaca High School. I'm joined today by Dr. Brown, Superintendent of Schools. Our guest today is Dr. Eversley Bradwell, who works on the Board of Education, Finance, and Facilities Committee.
Thank you, Brian. And thank you, Dr. Bradwell, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you all for joining in today as we have an important conversation. I must say, I'm sitting here today as a long-time student of public education. And prior to coming to Ithaca, I knew about Dr. Bradwell and his work. I referenced his research when thinking about becoming superintendent. And I was inspired and engaged by what I learned about you and what I learned from your work. So thank you. It's worked well for me. I've learned much, but I owe a lot of that to you and your expertise. What led you to do your research? If you can speak about your research, what led you to do your research? What led you to wish to run for the Board of Education? And why do you serve the community in this way?
Oh, well, thank you for the question. And first, thank you for having me. This is a great production you all run here, and I'm very impressed. And Brian, thank you for co-hosting as well. I'm looking forward to the conversation. I've been in the Ithaca community since 1995, and I came to teach at the Lehman Alternative Community School. And at that point in time, part of my job was serving as assistant to the principal for Minority Student Affairs. It meant that I was in the community trying to help students of color graduate at a higher rate. And from that work, including the educational experiences of our daughter, I realized that there was some research potentials here about why Ithaca was such a phenomenal high school. But for some students, the graduation rate wasn't where it needed to be. And so I undertook a dissertation project to research educational policy in the Ithaca City School District, specifically to research history and understand how we can educate all students to achieve excellence. And partly at the end of that research, I decided I couldn't sit on the sidelines and just talk about it. I needed to get myself involved, and so I ran for the City School District Board of Education.
So, Dr. Bradwell, tell us about the makeup of the Finance and Facilities Committee.
Absolutely. The Finance and Facility Committee includes two other board members. Brad Granger is the chair of the Finance and Facility Committee, along with another colleague, Chris Malcolm, who's been serving on that committee for the past year. And the three of us, along with many other board members who attend those meetings, try to conduct the business of the Finance and Facilities Committee.
A very important committee. Could you speak to why our community should follow the work of the Finance and Facility Committee?
Sure. Our committee should follow the work of all of our committees. Our community, that a good deal of work of the school board gets done in committees, and so be it the curriculum committee, be it the policy committee, be it the Finance and Facilities Committee, a good number of work gets done in those committees. More specifically to the Finance and Facilities Committee, we've been charged with trying to oversee the completion of a $98 million capital project in which we've been making renovations to our buildings, the new athletic and facility center we see, the new gym at the high school, for example, work at South Hill, work at Caroline, work at Enfield, work at almost all of our buildings. It's been part of that task. And above and beyond that is helping to, with our administrators, with parents, with students, with our community folks, help to put together a budget as well.
So the committee meets year-round, obviously.
Sure.
Could you speak about the continuous improvement process that is the budget development process, and what happens monthly to develop a budget, as opposed to just those 2 or 3 months where everyone's hearing and reading about it?
Sure. We take a look at the Ithaca City School District finances on a regular basis, on a monthly basis, if not more than monthly. So, for example, one of the things that we try to do is to take a look at what our finances look like in terms of debt payments. Should we be trying to refinance some of the debt payments, for example? We take a look at the ways in which we're thinking long-term of how we invest our money. And so the monthly meetings mean that we're taking a look at the district finances every single month, including what we spend, what we're hoping to generate in terms of revenue, trying to make sure we're in contact with state legislatures and community folk to push for additional state funding. It's a year-round process, and we're actively engaged in this process 12 months a year.
Wow. So what are some highlights on working on the board?
That's a great question. I've been serving on the board for the past 5 years. I've been fortunate enough to be elected in 2010 and then re-elected again in 2013. And so it's been an amazing experience to serve the community in that way. As folks know, serving on the school board is a volunteer position, so the significant number of hours that I spend away from my family and home are free. But the idea being that we're so committed to the educational success of our students that we do that work. And so some of the highlights that I like to claim in terms of my service on the board, with trying to be very humble, would be the hiring of Dr. Luvelle Brown as superintendent. We take great pride in trying to bring a visionary leader to this district and this community. This year, while we are experiencing a little bit of financial hardship, I think we've had extremely good financial stewardship of the district, including this year as well. And so I think that's a highlight. And I'm probably most proud of some of the work we're doing on educational policy. And so we are involved in rewriting the entire Ithaca City School District policy book to try to make it more student-friendly and more about forms of restorative justice.
I may have you elaborate on that last piece, policy. Through my experiences and my readings, you achieve equity through policy. There are many ways to go at equity and true equity and excellence.
Sure.
But it happens through policy. And you mentioned that you're rewriting the policy manual for a $110 million plus organization.
Sure.
Can you describe that process a little bit more, and then what our community should be looking forward to or engaging in going forward?
Yeah, and I'm also blessed to be serving with two phenomenal other board members. Dr. Pat Wazaloo serves on that committee, and Judy Maxwell, a long-term Ithaca City School District teacher, retiree, also serves in that committee. So we have a great deal of expertise in the room. Above and beyond the central office administration, above and beyond directors, teachers visit us frequently, PTA representatives visit us, SEPTA, special education PTA representatives visit us. And so this is definitely a community effort. I don't want to act like it's me, though I do chair that committee. And what we're really trying to understand is the ways in which we run our practices. So it's one thing to say what you do, it's another thing to put it down on paper. And so what policy tries to capture is what our district's belief systems are and what we think are good practices. And so we're trying to articulate the best practices that we know work for all students. And that means changing some policies. That means having some tough conversations about, as we've been having, for example, should we have a homework policy? Should we retain students, or should students automatically pass from grade to grade? We've been having all kinds of conversations. Should we think about breaking down the elementary school so there's no longer grades within the elementary school, but it's much more about content learning and not about age demographics?
Wow.
Those are some of the conversations we've been having in our policy committee meeting, and we hope to keep pushing that in innovative ways.
Pretty intense, huh, Brian?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Anything you would add? You want us to look at any policies from your perspective?
And I got to think about this.
Think about it.
Please, you can always hit me up at any point in time.
You got Twitter?
Absolutely.
No,
No. So, some things you're looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to this budget season. As we know, on Tuesday, the school board passed a number for a budget, but as those of us who've been in the process for a while know, that's just the beginning of the conversation. So while there's a number in place, it now means what we do to build our school district. What does it actually look like? And so those conversations, while difficult, while we keep the focus on the excellence and the education of our young folks, are engaging conversations and the most important conversations that a community can engage in. And so I'm looking forward to those dialogues. I'm looking forward to continuing to work on the policy book and hopefully near the completion at some point in time. And I'm just enjoying working with my board colleagues and, more importantly, a community that values education like Ithaca does.
Agreed. Anything else?
No.
Thank you. Anything else you wish to add?
No, again, I'm very impressed by the work that you are doing in this media class. And so as someone, I work at Ithaca College, and so I work with a good number of Park students who do amazing work and work with students who do documentaries and do programs like this. And you all are doing amazing work. So kudos to the staff, kudos to the students, and I hope to be invited back at some point in time.
You will come back.
Fantastic.
Hopefully.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Brian. Appreciate it, Dr. Brown.
Thanks for being here.
Sure enough.
And thank you all for tuning in. Please send us your questions, comments, suggestions, and we will consider them. Maybe you wish to be in this seat one day and help share your story or some information with the community. Thank you.